So Anke, our first show together. Hey, it was, I think, fascinating, the story behind the founders of Th3rd, right? Esther and Rudo starting their company, fully bootstrapped.
Yeah.
And I think it's great how they built the company, and also great what they shared, what they've learned during that road forward.
Yeah, and especially because they're siblings. So I think that's like a story that's itself interesting to learn. But also they were very open and like with all the ups and downs that went with it while building this company. So yeah.
Especially also how they funded the company, right? Because they didn't attract any venture capital. They did a very successful exit to Snapchat. I think it's fascinating, right? How these as siblings, with their own money and with from friends, fools and family, raised the capital to build this company forward.
Yeah, and I think it shows again like grit.
Indeed.
That grit is one of the key factors, I think, to get to these types of exits.
And also that you should celebrate, right, if you have success, which is not very Dutch.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look.
Cool.
Yeah, Esther and Rudo, you recently sold your company named Th3rd, right? And it was very recently announced. I think the transaction happened last year, if I understand correctly. And we want you to ask, let's say, your experience also in building Th3rd, growing it over time, and also about the exit process. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Can you give us a small pitch about the company? Right? What does Th3rd do? Why did you start it? And give us some background.
Th3rd is a 3D scanning company, so we create from something physical, something digital, and mainly for marketing purposes. We started out completely different. That's
a lot of companies do that.
We started building the biggest 3D scanner, what we thought back then, of the world, in order to scan 3D people for architectural visualizations. And that's how we built the website Human Alloy. And actually, because of the quality that we created, big brands like Adidas and Nike, you got to remember 3D models and augmented reality and all those kind of things were not that hyped up yet. We're still in the 3D printing phase where everybody was like, "Ooh, I can make something out of nothing with a 3D printer." And creating digital 3D models for marketing just started. So then when we had our 3D models from Human Alloy, the 3D people for architectural visualizations, Nike and Adidas came up to us like, this is great quality. Could you also create shoes and bags and everything for us? And that's actually how we created Th3rd, the 3D scanning company.
And what people might not know is that the two of you are siblings. So that's another like interesting hook. So how did that come together?
Yeah, so I was living in Amsterdam and Rudo had started this company together with the Th3rd co-founder, Tristan. And he needed a place to stay in Amsterdam because he was living in Breda. And I said, why don't you come and spend the night at my place 3 times a week? And my husband is a chef cook. And so we spent all of our nights together, actually. And the nights that you were staying at my place, on the kitchen table, just talking about his company. And I was an operational director at that time at an agency, creative agency. And I had just become a partner at that agency. So it was a very, same experience, more or less, running a company. Of course, in a very different stage and also very different kind of feel, because a startup is of course different than maybe becoming a partner in a company that is already up and running. We just noticed that we both had this real big love and passion for entrepreneurship, and he had some issues and I was kind of helping him, just giving him some advice, and then the other way around, like things that he had been going through or done that were really good for me. And then actually from there kind of grew. I in the end I left that company. I went to travel with my husband and I became a freelancer. And then during that travel I said, why don't I help you with the online marketing of this Human Alloy website? And I did it for nothing because it was a growth opportunity for me. I just really wanted to learn. And I said, you're going to be my guinea pig company and it's going to be fun. If we make money, that's fine. Then that's your money and it's cool. And then that actually worked out really well. The campaign that we ran worked out pretty good financially as well, but also the working together. Then when I came back and I started freelancing, I kind of needed an office space, and they were at B Amsterdam, the startup hub. So he said, "Why don't you sit at our place when you work and when you're not on an assignment?" And then kind of on my downtime, I started helping them. And then kind of talks happened like, "Hey, don't you want to, become a..."
She was always my strategic sounding board. We can really work like that together. So I definitely felt like this works. In the beginning, you have something like, well, we're siblings, and you wouldn't say it, but I'm the youngest one. So I felt I had my own company, and I needed to prove it as well. But I just felt, we immediately saw that it worked very well. So. We wanted you on board, definitely, in especially that growth phase. So first we started Human Alloy, that's just the website. Then we started to pivot towards creating 3D models for bigger brands. And then we really saw like, all right, now we need to move faster in growing the business as a whole. And creating 3D SaaS, 3D scanning as a service. So we were, sorry, I got to go back to the beginning. We built a 3D scanner with 130 DSLR cameras in a sphere. So it's a pretty big and hefty thing, but we're fully self-funded. So
how did you manage that? Because that was also one of the questions, right? Because you have to invest a lot of money into the cameras, right? But also building your company and etc. How did you fund that from the beginning, especially you, because you started the company right from the early start?
We pretty early on got like a cool proof of concept, which was then very new still, and it was 2014, I think. So you really felt like the shock from the financial crisis.
Indeed.
Still, and it was slowly growing up. So investments weren't that easy to find, but crowdfunding was. So with a cool visualization and a cool idea of building 3D people for a website.
And probably the help from Esther also on that.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
But I must be honest that it's mainly the cool visualizations from Tristan.
Okay.
And that's how we got our first loan, not an investment. And we saw, it went up and down, but the numbers kept growing every year. So we just felt like, as long as we can grow it ourselves, let's see where we end up.
And what did you raise with the crowdfunding roughly? What was it?
175,000.
Yeah, because it's a pretty big investment also, right? With all the cameras and stuff to do, right? Yeah.
And that was, I built a great business plan for at least 2 years that we could stay afloat.
Yeah.
But that was like 7 months or 8 months.
Yeah.
Like that. That's also one of the hard things you learn when doing business, that financial planning in the beginning is a lot harder than you think. There are a lot of costs that are hard to plan ahead for that are coming.
And besides that 170,000, was there any other investments involved, or you're basically bootstrapped?
Fully bootstrapped, and friends, families, and fools.
Yeah.
Especially, after those 7 months, that's when we had some hard times. We were on the verge of bankruptcy 3 or 4 times. That's really when friends and family helped, and mainly because the numbers were growing. The business was doing good, but it just cost more upfront to do than we expected at first. And
what was the main cost? Was it because you already did the investment in the camera, right? So the hardware was already there. What was the main cost?
Yes, before we switched over to selling towards brands, we had a website with 3D people, and we needed to create those 3D people up front, which were 1 or 2 weeks of work per person. And then we sold them actually pretty cheaply. So we would break even in about a year, something like that. So yeah, it's a lot of basically a full year that you need to pay up front.
Yeah.
Before you can even break even.
And it's mainly the staffing costs required to do this scanning, right? If I understand you correctly. That's
Yeah, staffing cost but a lot of licensing and the models itself, the scanning days. So because we have to pay them for perpetual license.
Oh yeah, okay.
A global perpetual license, because if you sell the 3D model, you have no way of tracking it after that.
Okay.
So it needs to be free of any claim in anything.
And who did you scan those days? Who did you, because you used probably...
For the 3D people store, we scanned mundane, normal people.
Okay.
Because it's for architectural visualization, so it's a great house, and there just need to be a couple of people in front of it.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be a superstar.
No, indeed.
Because then we attract all the attention. But we had all kinds of side hustles, like we scanned Armin van Buuren and 2 or 3 other DJs.
Martin Garrix, right?
Martin Garrix, yeah, exactly.
And what I like about these types of podcasts, that people realize it's not like a linear path, right? You're also saying like we had to like almost 2-3 times that we had to like close shop.
Yeah.
So Esther, can you maybe like what happened? Like, can we double click on that? Because going back to your friends and family, asking for more money, that's like that comes with probably like a burden on your shoulders.
Yes, and
especially if you're already siblings, right? It's already a family tie
true.
there.
And I must say, Rudo and Tristan really invested a lot of their own money in the company as well. So they didn't pay out salary for years. And that was something that was also something that I realized when I entered the company. Like, they already have so much invested, right? So I did put in money, but definitely not the amount that they put in. And it was also my family and his friends, and you feel really responsible altogether, of course, to make it work. But I myself felt that, but I definitely saw it in my brother and Tristan as well, that it was a huge strain on them mentally, emotionally, that you have this burden, and especially because you're bootstrapped. For us, it was, it's also always like how we're going to make it to the end of the month. Can we do our investments, the innovations that we want to do? Can we get enough customers? And that was always a bit of a discussion, like, do we need to find an investment? Shall we do this in a different way? But there were always enough bigger clients, that we had as a lead. And we were like, well, if we can land that customer, then, we're going to, and then we don't need that investment, and you can just kind of stay free in your choices. And, you don't have to go on that enormous growth path, So I think that was always, but it was, we definitely had really hard times where, it was just like, we were just, oh my God, how are we going to do this, And that also puts a strain on your relationship as brother or sister.
Yeah. Was quitting ever an option? Where you were like, I'm done?
No, I don't
think so.
Well, actually, I went in pretty neutral. As long as we were growing our numbers with at least twice as much, you don't feel like you should quit. So that I'm happy to invest more. But if that ever would have gone down, I probably would think more of, is this really still worth it? Should we move on to another option, or should we sell, or those type of things?
And is that like that goalpost? Does that move? Because I can imagine like you keep wanna move forward and like believe in the bigger vision, but like quitting sometimes might be the easiest option. And also like between the 3 of you, were you always aligned?
I don't think we were always aligned. No. If we fast forward, so in the beginning, the first 6 or 7 years, we always kept growing every year after year. In the last 2 or 3 years, especially with Corona, we started flatlining, but we still saw that the potential was there because the market itself actually grew a lot further. But that was the moment that we saw, like, maybe we need a much bigger investment to really get this going in the way it should be. And that's when we first thought about exiting as well.
Yeah.
We keep on going.
And what was, because we see it also, right, in the portfolio of founders where we invest in, is that founders are always, let's say, agree on everything, but if things get hard, then it's harder to agree on things, and then views differ, right, about the situation. What's the biggest difference that the two of you had, right, especially as siblings, because then it's even harder or perhaps even easier to have this kind of discussion. But what was the biggest, let's say, thing what you didn't agree on?
Yeah, I think in the end it wasn't about not agreeing, but just having...
Or a different view, of course.
Maybe different views, but I think that's something that we do pretty well, or that's how I see it at least. Like, we are good at kind of going back and forth with different visions, different ideas, and also maybe different views on how we should approach that. And then both of us go like, okay, let's just, shred it down, analyze what is the best way, and then in the end we kind of come up with a mutual outcome, I believe. And sometimes this can take weeks, okay. Because we kind of need to, okay, let's go home, just think. Sometimes we screamed at each other and we kind of left and we're like, whatever, and then, you kind of come back after the weekend and we're like, okay, let's sit down again. How are we going to do this? And then in the end, we always came up with a good solution, I think. Because we always went forward.
And what's the different approaches that the two of you have? Are you more acting, for example, on gut feeling or facts and data, or are you more, let's say, the angry person in the conversation, or more consensus oriented, right? What is the difference between the two of you, especially again as siblings, right? Because I think that's fascinating to have a company together.
So first of all, I think as a group together, I think the three of us always felt like we had a different start, and we feel that everybody should have their freedom to choose whatever they want, but not as long as you don't put the others down over the back of the other two. So we try to find the consensus, and I think I'm more creatively out there with all kinds of wild visions and views of how we can do things, and she's much more down to earth and needs to understand it and needs to be able to plan her own path in that way. So I think the way we always did it was just say what we felt we needed to say, to have everything out in the open, and then just kind of like a puzzle, see, all right, so how can we fit all of these different views and things together in a way that it's manageable for everybody, with the understanding that you can't have everything. So.
Yeah, so also a question to you, Anke, what's your view there also? Because we both are investors, right? So we talk a lot to founders, and there are views where investors say, and also founders say, the consensus model doesn't work, right? Because then you get the average and not an outlying path, right? Which in most cases is the best one. And there's another group who says, right, you should go for the consensus because the best is a combined view, right? What's your view, Anke, on that? What's your take?
It's a good question. I think the outlier scenario I like. I think especially for like us, like being like super early, you have to see things that other people don't see yet. But there is something where then fatal is not the right word, but like in terms of the values and the principles, it should be aligned. I think what's interesting about your company, what we see also sometimes, which might be a good question for you, where there's like either siblings, I don't see that much, but like a husband-wife company. Yeah. And then sometimes even like a third founder in place. Yeah. And that does pause me sometimes. Yeah. Because you bring, and I think especially with husband-wife, and of course we've got amazing examples with Eventbrite or Canva, but in other cases I also have seen it terribly wrong. And I wonder in your fundraising process, when you were thinking of maybe raising external capital, if that ever came up, and that might also have been a reason why, luckily afterwards, like it has been like a bootstrap company.
Shall I? So I do agree with you. Just to go back on the outlier question, I do believe, I think we are very much aligned on that conceptually, or conceptual wise. So in your company, what direction do you take? I think you should go for more an outlier concept, right? You should do something unique. And I think that is definitely what we did with Th3rd. I think a long time also we were very much ahead of the market. And that was a very good and comfortable position we were in. But I think the consensus for us was more on the business decisions, like what are you now going to do? And in that, I think a good discussion and a bit of like fire, and fireworks is very good.
Yeah.
Because you kind of know, okay, where do you stand? Where do I stand? Where does our third co-founder stand? But then in the end, you need to go, you all need to go forward in a path, right? And you kind of need to go on because it's 3 founders and you need to, take
and
that
step. And I think
step.
it all comes down to trust. Like when you're like starting
Very
a company,
much.
you have to trust.
Yes.
And maybe you don't agree, but you trust that this is the right direction.
Yes.
And it's like blindly trust the other person. And I think I agree. Yeah.
I think it's trust in your word. I mean,
Yeah.
everything that we build, also with outside contractors, new partners, even probably the first clients that we got. It's you say something and you make it work regardless.
Yeah.
So especially in the beginning, we really didn't pay ourselves so we could pay the others, because we promised that even if things didn't go as was planned and all those kind of things.
Yeah, and also your family and friends were also involved, right, in funding the company. That means also a lot of responsibility to you guys, right? That's because that's, if you have a VC on board, that's a little bit, let's say, less involved on a personal level, right, than your friends and family. So, I can imagine it gets a lot of tension there also. Hey, and indeed, what was, let's say, the response from when you, because you tried to raise funding also, if I understood correctly, right? So you bootstrapped the company, you raised crowdfunding early on, and of course you had the first clients paying, etc. So there was, let's say, some revenue apart from your own investment came in. Yes. But what was, let's say, the trajectory on raising funding? Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Yeah. What did you do on that end?
So first of all, with the sibling question, the funny thing is the third one actually wanted Esther in more than I wanted. So that really immediately took the fuse out of that kind of question, because he could immediately say something like that. But on the funding, I think in the beginning we really had the issue that it was so out there that everybody said we needed a proof of concept, but we also needed a lot of hardware. So the proof of concept together with the hardware made it really hard for others.
That's not an area where a lot of investors like to be in, right? That's
especially in the Netherlands, I feel. There are not too many hardware-focused investors.
And we felt the same way, definitely. So then they asked us for a proof of concept. We took on loans, and then it became, but now you have hardware and loans. Now it's even harder for you guys to invest, unless it's really great. So we kept feeling like we should show the next step already before we could get an investment. But then we had the next step, and we were like, well, do we still need an investment now?
Yeah, indeed.
So it was really the chicken and egg feeling the entire time.
And what was your, last question on it. What was your feeling on the funding process, right? How investors reacted on you and acted on you? Also, again, indeed, at siblings, but also, let's say, in the phase of the company where you were, right? How was the process for you personally, on a personal level?
Shall I?
Yeah, go.
I've never had an issue with us being siblings towards investors, but that's, if you see us work with the 3 of us, you see that it works. So, and I feel that a lot of investors have that sixth sense for something like that. So, I think it was always with us, with the numbers, the hardware.
Yeah.
Those things.
Okay.
And we saw that as we were more in America and everything, other competitors of us just had a lot easier path with investors in the beginning than we had here in 2014 as well. I think the investing climate grew a lot more in the meantime, which I think is great. But in the starting time, that was really hard. Yeah.
I think we'll talk more about like the actual exit in a bit. But in hindsight, when you started the company, you had like certain ambitions, and I guess like these ambitions, they change over time. But in hindsight, would you have, if you've had the option, would you have had raised a ton of money to change the direction or trajectory of the company? Or looking back now, almost like a year later, you feel like this is what I would have loved to see, like we hit all the milestones that I wanted to hit?
I'd love to answer it, but I'm very curious of what Esther.
No,
Esther, bring it on.
Oh, okay. I would have loved to build a company. Yeah, I would have loved to raise that money and build it ourselves. I do see, and I think we also saw that in the process. Or shall I? Maybe you should first. Okay. So what we do see is that as a startup, you have a different kind of position, especially with the big brands that we work with or that we created our solution for. Mm-hmm. You have a very different position than now, with a big company, big name backing you. And it's just so much easier. We work with all the same brands that we worked with when we were still a startup. But somehow there's so much more confidence in this big name,
Which we haven't revealed yet.
No, yeah, I can, but I'm not sure if, because you said, we wanted to talk about the exit later. So it's just a very different feeling. And that's something that I kind of wonder, if we would have had the money and we would have had that investment, I'm sure we could have built a company further ourselves. But in the end, would we have been able to create the same impact with our technology? I wonder. And that is something I'm super excited for now. Mm-hmm. That we are really putting, the standard of 3D asset creation worldwide for this company that bought us. So that's...
Oh, and you can, I think...
Okay, So it's, so Snapchat bought us. And then now we are, one of the standards for 3D creation. We are now rolling that out internationally. And I think that's just amazing. I mean, that's something we definitely celebrated as well as a team. We're like, oh my God, we are the ones that bring that standard now, to the world. And that's just awesome. That's that's so super cool. Yeah. Yeah. So I wonder if we could have, but go ahead and answer.
Yeah, what's your view?
I'm really curious to hear.
No, so as we were building our 3D asset rig, our 3D scan solution, you could see that we were almost hyper-focused on innovating as much as possible in the 3D scanning and the 3D asset creation side of the whole thing. But as we went on working for brands, you could see that you need a platform to approve it. You need QA. You need somewhere where you can look at it from a 3D viewer perspective. AR, how we're going to use it in marketing and all those types of things. And we kept getting those questions with the brands as well, that you really need the full service solution, which we couldn't offer at that moment. And in order to get an investment for that and set it up, that would really set us back all the way at the back of the line. While with our 3D content creation itself, we were way up front. So I started to grow much more towards maybe we should just be that singular focused company, be sold to a larger company like Snapchat. Actually, that fun fact, I never was interested in Snapchat. Esther really was. I felt that we should go to the brands itself because they were our clients. I was like, why would we go to a platform like this?
As an acquirer also, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
Why are you wasting your time on Snapchat? Just go for the brands. Like, you never know. They do stuff with augmented reality.
Oh. Okay. Interesting. Is it a good moment now to go to the exit?
Yeah.
Is it, because we are thinking...
Can I just add one more thing?
Please.
I think now, especially with all the developments in AI, the whole changed investment climate that we now face, the economy, everything that has changed. Now, a year later, we are so happy that we did this.
Can imagine.
So happy because things, especially also in our market, machine learning, artificial intelligence, all in 3D creation, it just goes so fast.
Yep.
So
Great. We learned that as investors that an exit, you can plan it, you can schedule it, but often it occurs, without reason, right? Or with a very solid reason, but not scheduled. How did it happen with 3rd at your end?
Yeah, it went pretty weird, like almost an accident waiting to happen. But I gotta go back a bit. We really went great with the pitch for the 3D scanner. We had a pilot with Adidas. We were gonna work with ASOS. We would do the first pilot went great. We were gonna do the second pilot with Adidas. We just moved from Amsterdam to our own office. Esther had joined officially. I mean, she was always there, but officially we were growing. We had another 200% or 300% growth. And I was going to go to America to celebrate my very first vacation because I had a full year that I could pay out myself. We finally had some room to save for that. And I went to America, and literally the day after, the airlock closed because of COVID.
It did. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, lucky, I'm here.
You were in the US, March 20. Yeah.
I was going to go with an RV cross from Chicago down to New Orleans to Los Angeles. It was still the springtime, so it was cold in Chicago. So we were like, all right, we have 5 weeks. In a week and a half, we're driving down, and then we'll go slowly towards Las Vegas and see all kinds of things. And I arrived in Chicago, the airline closed, and we started going down, and within that week, the Netherlands closed, and everything in America started.
Wow.
To close. We arrived in New Orleans, and the travel agencies called us like, I'm not sure if we can guarantee your safety if you stay now. So would you like to go back? And I'm like, well, if you say it like that, yes. So we drove down a week and a half straight on, and immediately drove another week towards Las Vegas because that's where our flight would be. We flew back, and I arrived in the office, and I still feel it in my heart. We lost 800,000 in assignments. My dream vacation was gone. We finally were making a profit, and immediately within a month we were down already. We needed cash really quickly, and I was just sitting there like, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
In 5 or 6 years, I grew everything, and that was hard enough. But we were finally there when we were making a profit, and 3 months later, it just crashed completely. That probably was the hardest moment in the entire time of building the business. But luckily, we had the pilot from Adidas. Once everything was open again, that we could go to Germany. We did the pilot, everything closed again. So that was the perfect moment. But it wasn't enough. So we had everything that we needed to move forward, but we could really feel like, we need more traction, more clients, and everybody was looking into it, but it just didn't go fast enough. So that's when we sort of started panicking, looking for investments, which is never the right.
No.
Luckily, the government had the corona-lening, overbruggingslening.
Yeah.
A loan set up for corona, and but we just saw that with the hardware and the momentum that it still needed just for our clients to catch up on the new reality, that investments would be hard as well.
Probably also a lower priority, right, for customers also to work with you and to start new.
Brands kind of
indeed pull back,
well,
right?
Because it was all innovation, so
yeah, indeed,
everything just stopped. Yeah. I still had a freelance assignment.
Exactly.
So I said, you know what, guys, because I was going to transition over to 3rd, but I was still working as a freelancer. I said, you know what, let's do it like this. That 3rd now. How do you say, rents me out to this assignment. So it's now 3rd making that money on my freelance assignment. Then at least the 3 of us can do our groceries. We're not gonna, we don't know what's going to happen in the world, but at least a little bit of money is coming in, so that's how we kind of survived for, 4 or 5 months. Then the call came, or the loan. And then I think, when was it? After the summer of 2021, like autumn, the three of us got together and we said, okay, let's have a walk. And then we really had a really good talk together as founders. Like, okay, we are in this situation. What are our options? Like, what are the different scenarios that we can think of? Maybe let's just brainstorm. Let's just put everything, all the ideas we have on the table and kind of choose 3 scenarios that we're going to work on, you know, and let's just see what kind of comes to fruition. We take 3 seeds and let's see what grows. And the 3 scenarios that we ended up on after that walk were we're going to focus more on creative agencies because that's where the immediate money could be. So creative agencies in Europe working with augmented reality, working with 3D models, working with Snapchat, working with TikTok, working with Facebook. Okay, that's where the easy money is. We're going to go after investments because then like the big Corona hit was kind of slowing down and we said, okay, maybe this is a good way. Yeah? All of the e-commerce, offline shopping was really picking up because of Corona. Of course,
Indeed.
this was also a big hype.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, maybe this is a good time. We're going to start investing or start looking for investors. And then a third smaller scenario more or less was, you know, if we can find a company that would be interested in acquiring us, then let's see if that is an option. And we had already been in contact with Snapchat, I think about a year before that walk. And they had then already expressed interest. We said, you know, we could try to just, you know, then we kind of politely declined because the whole world was different then.
Indeed.
But we said, you know, we can always start up conversation. Maybe you want to invest. That was actually our idea. We're going to talk to Snapchat again. Maybe they are interested in it.
I'm going to add here as well that as we were talking with investors, we could also see that everybody said the investment was hard because of hardware and the loan. But if we can buy it completely, then that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Then every time we said, no, thank you, we still want to grow it.
Also, investors mentioned that to you. Not only, you mean acquirers or?
And,
Okay.
Not the real investor.
Indeed, yeah.
Everybody we were talking with to see if we can get some money somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's why we actually had the third option as well. Like, all right, now let's open up that option as well, where we always kept that off the table.
Yeah. And how did that? I'm sorry. And how did the first contact of Snapchat a year before Snap started? Right? How did it all start? Did they reach out to you at that time? Did you contact them? Was there another conversation?
I sent a LinkedIn message.
They bought the other company, right?
Yes. So the first thing was I reached out. That was actually the conversation that we had. The Rudo was like, "Why are you, wasting your time on Snapchat?" I said, "I'm just gonna write. There's this name I saw in an article, and I said, I'm just gonna write her a LinkedIn message. Let's see, And that lady, actually, now we work together with her. It's really funny. But that lady immediately responded. Really cool. So I really worked on this because you have like 140 characters. I was like, how am I going?
In the invite, right?
Yeah. And she actually wrote back pretty quickly. She said, "Oh, you should write an email to this and this guy. Here's his email address. We would love to talk to you." And we're like, okay. But that was a year before.
Yeah.
And then,
And she was probably in the 3D team there then,
yes,
right? So not in the corporate side of the business, right? Not in the acquisition part.
And she assigned us to a guy who was in strategy.
Oh yeah, indeed.
And so then we had a couple of talks, but we were at that time not interested in becoming acquired or being acquired. So we said, we just wanted a partnership or maybe an investment. And so in the end, kind of these talks we politely declined, but wanted to keep lines open, of course. And then they
came from both sides, I think, because they bought the company.
Then after, that was after. They bought Vertebrae. So they bought a startup that was specialized in 3D, 3D viewer, 3D software, and also a little bit of 3D creation. And then, like fast forward a year after, when we had our walk, we had these scenarios. You again picked up that contact with that guy from strategy.
Yes, but it's good to mention that was the moment that I said, "Why are we talking with Snapchat? Come on, we need those brands and everything." let's keep all our options open. Let's just go with them. Maybe that's our way out. Anyways, let's see.
So it's about acquiring, right? Let the brands acquire you.
Well, investing or acquiring.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Okay.
We always said we're not going to get acquired. Only need an investment. During that walk, we said, all right. So let's also talk with Snapchat again, because they immediately said we're actually interested in either acquiring or not investing at all. And that's how it got on the table. And I remember that first call was very interesting, because they said they were interested. They just wanted to have a first call with a couple of people that we didn't talk with the year before, to see if it was interested or not. So you couldn't go, I think, and I went with Tristan and another contract worker, and we sat with 35 people on the other side.
In a Zoom call or live?
In a Zoom call.
In a Zoom call. Wow.
So like an M&A team, or like who were the people on the other side?
No, it was just, so it started with 4 or 5 people. Later on, we heard that everybody was so interested in how we could create such high quality 3D models at such a scale. They all said, like, I want to join as well. I want to join as well. So we had 40 minutes or 30 minutes even set up, and it was a call for almost 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
We just kept talking.
That shows some interest, right?
Exactly. That's what I said to her the day after. Like, all right, thank you for contacting Snapchat. This is really interesting. This could actually work.
And that was, of course, one option for you, right, Snapchat? But you had a walk, right? And you were in serious problems, right? Because you ran out of money and the market was frozen at the time, etc. What were the other options in terms of, let's say, being acquired or being funded that you had on the table at that time? And the very concrete options.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Snapchat was one of the first ones that we contacted back then. So there was some interest from others as well, but we could see how fast they were moving.
Yeah.
That you're immediately like, all right, let's see how this works.
Indeed. Yeah.
And we were in talks with somebody that we knew from the past, who was acquired in Snapchat as well. That really had some great talks about how the company was and everything. So
Okay.
we started to dive in a bit, and I was like, well, this could actually be really cool to work for them. We did have some options, but they quickly.
But
We
did
see-
you then
we-
also
we-
like this is a good moment to call Nike or to Adidas, or like were you then like actively approaching similar like to I think like fundraising where it's good to have like multiple term sheets on the table.
Yeah.
Well, and also like I think like a second question that I have, were you reaching out to others who've been through the same process? Like hell yeah, now what? How? Yeah.
We had a couple of other options, but they were definitely in a different stage. So what Rudo also said, we noticed that Snapchat wanted to move fast, and then you're in the decision like, are we gonna now lag
Are you gonna
because
pause?
you want to create other options? Yeah, but maybe you're not even sure if that are actually gonna be other options. So that's something we did not do. We just went with the process with Snapchat. Of course, also. Keeping up those options, but really quickly you need to sign
an NDA, right? An exclusive, right? Yeah.
An exclusivity letter. So then,
It's also one of the reasons why we always, as investors, always advise, right, that if you, in the process, always contact multiple buyers, especially early on, right, because you had a contact a year before, so they have some, let's say, some advantage there because they know you, they know the product, etc. So always start early on in the process contacting potential buyers so that you know the people and they know you, right? It's Looking backward and also to learn from it, would you do it differently also, or do you think, right, this was, let's say, also to learn from, right? Is it?
And here the hardware and the loan comes in again.
Yeah.
We did see that it just was a hard pull without the real traction that we didn't have because of Corona.
Yeah.
So we were glad with this option.
Can imagine.
I think we were really down on our luck and everything. You don't feel like you can really get going again. It was just like, all right, they're very interested. Let's first see how this works. And we know that you need to do the strategy differently, but they sound really cool.
Yeah, and you got good referrals on them. You had a good feeling with the person you talked to, right? So it's okay.
And take us through the moment like when the DocuSign came in, like where how
at the end of the
process. Yeah,
at the end of the process. Yeah.
Well, actually, the 6 months before that, so I had that talk. Then quite quickly afterwards, we already got an offer, which was interesting for us, and so we started the talks. Basically, I started mainly the talks, and just because that was my part of the business.
To negotiate the offer?
Yeah, he's the most financial.
Negotiate it because we were bootstrapped, so it's not that you need to sit down with.
No, you don't have a board or investors, etc.
It was just like, oh, is this what you offer? I'll discuss with my two other co-founders.
You didn't get any help from, let's say, investment banks or advisors or lawyers? Okay, sorry.
So we went to Th3rd, the Dutch foundation or governmental agency for that, and they advised us with a law firm.
Very good.
Yeah, which helped us perfectly. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and we also felt like, okay, now, this is the moment where you need to bring in somebody professional. Yeah. Because Rudo definitely has a good background in business administration, really good financial background, but you're just so biased, and you need professional help in this.
And it's your baby, right, what you're selling. So it's also, you need to take a different stand also, right?
You feel like a Calimero.
Indeed.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're big, but not as big.
That's immediately what we heard from our law firm as well. Like Snapchat is so big that it could happen that they're in talks currently with some similar, and all the way up till the end, until you have the DocuSign in front of you,
the money on the bank.
It's not certain.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that upfront that it's gonna be a nerve-wracking moment, and that really was those 6 months where you have certain calls at certain moment where you know that you need to hash out something, which we had discussed already, and I could see on my lawyer as well, like, all right, this is important that we need to discuss it. Those were especially coming out of that big hurdle where we lost all our work and everything a year or a year and a half before that. Those 2 years were just nerve-wracking. So when we signed the document, I actually felt like you sign the document and you jump for joy and everything, but it actually felt like how do you say it? Cramp in your leg. It when it goes away, it's not that it's suddenly all gone. It slowly withers away. So the stress that I felt, it really took me like 6 months after signing the document that I could actually enjoy and feel like, wow, it really happened. Unbelievable.
I've got so many questions about this.
Yeah.
I think, and maybe one that we can discuss later about the buying price, if you negotiated that. And then the second thing, when you signed the DocuSign, were the three of you in the same room? Like, did you cry? Did you jump for joy? Like, how was that?
So shall I tell about the moment and then you tell about the price? So we, it was nerve-wracking those 6 months.
Yeah.
And you just go up and down. You think a lot of things and you feel a lot of things, but you really need to contain yourself. And of course, we could all discuss it, but you cannot discuss it with anybody else.
No, because it's a publicly listed company.
Yeah.
So you cannot even...
No.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't happen. So then it feels really stupid to talk about it, So we were really like... it was just a super weird 6 months. And then when the DocuSign, up until the very last moment, well, maybe the last week or two, we were like, okay, maybe. Oh, no, then people came to visit us. People came to visit us 3 days before, and we were like, no. Okay, we cleaned out the whole office. We did a lot. We hired a cleaner. We bought plants, we bought stroopwafels. Like, oh my God, they're coming over. Okay. Let's do this. Oh God, I hope it's not going to be a no, because this is the final one. Yeah. The final audit. But then in the end, so it was a Friday when we signed.
And they left on Tuesday. That's what I remember.
Oh, they left on Tuesday. Yeah, the Tuesday before. And then on Friday we signed. So we said, okay, let's all come to the office. Let's be all together for the DocuSign. And then, it was a little bit of like going back and forth because there was something in the contract that wasn't well. And it was
always
just
the last
stupid.
details,
and
right?
Of course,
It's
with time difference, so it was late in the day.
Yeah.
But then in the end, everything was signed. It was really sunny out, and we ordered sushi.
Yeah.
And we popped we popped champagne.
Yeah.
And then, it was just the three of us, which was really, really nice, actually. And we sat outside of our like small garage, like the small location that we have, and we just drank champagne. We saluted, we ate sushi, and we were definitely in celebration mode. Yeah, of course, we hugged. We were like, "Oh my god!" I think, definitely shed some tears.
Yeah.
So
imagine.
we were like all ecstatic. But the most weird thing for me was, like, after that celebration, I hopped on my bike. I went back home. I have to take the pond to Amsterdam North. So I was on this boat. There were a lot of people around me, and I was like, damn, that's weird. Like, life just goes on, you know? I just had like the wildest experience, maybe one time in a lifetime experience, and nobody knows. And it's, I don't know, it was just so funny. I came home, I saw my kids, and then that weekend was just weird because, your whole personal life, it has such an impact, but this is something you cannot grasp at that moment.
But also, you couldn't tell it to anybody, right? Or
so we told
or
friends
limited.
and family.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Okay, good to
and
hear.
We
Yeah,
said, it's not out in the open.
Indeed.
So we couldn't how do you say, express it publicly.
Yeah, indeed. Okay.
So we did tell everybody. We didn't tell everybody, but we told everybody in our close circle. Yeah.
And you were saying like 6 months. It took you 6 months to like
after
digest it, to get attention.
I really, how do you say, a lot of emotions came out. I actually was crying every day in the car.
Wow.
Because you're just going 100 miles forward as fast as possible, hyper focused on just building your company. And suddenly it's like life catches up on you.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, now you can celebrate and you can slow down, and your whole...
It's not in your system.
So it really takes a long time.
What did you do to get attention of your body, right, and of your emotions? What did you, apart from indeed crying in the car and getting out of emotion, what did you do to?
Yeah, so that's the first relief. Everybody that I talked to as well, who either sold their company or knew people who sold their company, they said, that takes about a year to a year and a half. Just take your time, and that's basically what I did. I just gave myself some time. Like, all right, and. I remember making the first mistake in Snap, where it wasn't a big mistake or anything, but in having your own bootstrap company, it feels like, if you're losing one client, that could mean you're not...
It's your money.
Exactly. So you're always like on the edge, like you can't make any mistakes. Everything needs to be set up correctly. And it just felt like, life really has changed. That was actually the first moment where I felt like as if I had signed, life has changed.
And that's like work-wise, but also in your personal life, because then you get the money wired on your bank account, and especially as a bootstrap company, like it can be very fruitful. And we'll talk about like what we think you might have wired. What did you do? Like, did you go out and go shopping, or like buy that big thing that you always, or like didn't touch your wallet at all? Like, how was that for you?
Yeah, I'll go first. When I started my company, also what I really noticed, both with contract workers, friends, fools, and families who invested in us, and my own friends, everybody was just so like, if I think one person deserves it, it's you. Congratulations! Yeah. It's so cool. Yeah, and that was really special. Got in a relationship with my wife currently, and we had 3 things that we wanted to do: get 2 kids, buy a house, and build a company. That's what we said. Almost the first things that when we sat down. And we had the company, we had the kids, but we never had the house. So for me, a first priority, also because the kids are getting older, I want to be able to give them a place where they can grow up. That was almost my first priority after signing, like I was still in that hyper focused mode. Like, now I want that house because that's what I've been doing it for. Yeah. And I bought a house.
Yeah.
Cool. And you, Esther?
So I didn't do a big buy like that, but I did went shopping with my kids. Yeah, I said, you can buy new clothes. You can pick whatever you want, and then we bought a Nintendo play computer. Yeah, it's just really
so
weird
funny,
because
it's
it's really it's just a very weird feeling. It's a very weird feeling to all of a sudden be financially free in a way, and of course this takes a couple of years because you don't get the money wired all at the same time when you sign. It takes a couple of years, but it's just still for me it's really hard to grasp. It's a very weird reality.
For me it's also such a cultural thing, like
maybe
living in for the last 10 years in the US, where people would then like show up with a big ring or whatever, really spoil. Like I've been with parties of friends who sold their companies and it was like crazy, whereas I feel in the Netherlands people are way more relaxed about it, down to earth. It's also like maybe big success, financial success is not always something to be celebrated. Like nobody wants to be in the quote. Or how do you feel about with your group of friends? Are people reaching out to you after that moment happened?
I think it's mostly because I also experienced it, right? I sold a company once and then I bought myself a pretty fancy car. So everybody saw it. And the people who know you and who have experienced and seen what you did for the company, right? They understand it. But especially the people who didn't see it and thought, it just happened overnight, etc. I think that's, and indeed, the Netherlands is really, let's say, don't show off. Indeed, don't show off what you have, right? It's a very typical thing for the Netherlands.
Which we should change, I guess. Which is like great role models, like after you put your heart and your life into.
You put really everything in it, right? Both of you. So, shall we go to the guesstimation? Is that an idea?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the valuation of Th3rd. So while Snap is a public company and thus must produce annual reports, the 2022 acquisition information was quite broad. It stated that the aggregate purchase considerations for that year were $120.5 million for multiple acquisitions that were not even listed. So we focused on finding information on Th3rd itself. Well, we found out to join an accelerator and raise some funds. We couldn't find any additional details. However, we managed to access a version of the website from November 2021, which gave us a few pricing indications. It stated that the price per shoe varied between $30 and $100, while a pilot price started at $100,000. It also listed a few customers. So we used the following assumptions to estimate the revenue for 2021. An average price per shoe of $50 and pilot for $100,000. Seven customers during the year with an average of 1,500 shoes each and two pilots, which gave us a revenue estimation of $800,000. Then we looked at multiple fake transactions around the same time to find a few comparables. While the median enterprise SaaS multiple for 2021 was 5.2, acquisition within the space showed a higher multiple. An example is Snapchat's acquisition of Israeli AR startup Simagin for an estimated $60 million in 2016 at a revenue multiple approximately between 8 and 12, leading us to pick a multiple of 10. Our valuation estimation would thus be $800,000 times 10, $8 million. We also hope for you it was an all-cash transaction, as Snapchat stock is now down 90% compared to its all-time high of 2021. So are we too low, too high, or exactly right?
I like how the estimation is because that was not at all how our revenue was at that moment.
Okay.
But the multiple of 10 is too low, and the estimation that we created was too high. Let's say it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you for elaborating on it.
Hey guys, anything else that we didn't touch on that you wanna? Because the listeners are, I think that the founders who are in the thick of it, who sometimes could like use the insights or like a push towards the right direction. Anything else that you would like to share? At that point, let me read your, because I love what you put on your LinkedIn. This is Rudo. He says, being an entrepreneur can also be hard, harder than others think. I know, I've been through it as well. If you're an entrepreneur and need some help, business or personal, you can always reach out.
Yeah.
And I
Nice.
think for me, like putting that out there in a world like strangers, it also shows that you've been through big highs, big lows.
I think that's exactly it. What you do as an entrepreneur, it's always, whether it's your own small contract worker where you try to get your own next assignment, up to building something huge. It's big highs, big lows, pivots. It's constantly thinking like what needs to be next. But what I found one of the hardest things to do is leading the pack. So you can't show your weakness that easily, and you can't show how hard it is sometimes, because you feel like your entire company and your team and everything is on the line if you show some weakness. And I've learned that it's actually the other way around, showing the weakness and showing that it is okay to doubt, and how you got to a certain question. It is possible, but you're also in sales, so you got to do it at the right time with the right persons. Yeah, and that's why I said it. If you feel like, or put it out there, if you feel like you don't have that moment with somebody that you can share it, it's very important, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.